Washington Post. My God, I've not been able to look away. And look, the details of this sound juvenile, and that's the whole point, that the people who work in the most elite media institutions here in Washington are legitimately crazy people. So let's go ahead and put this up there. Now, I'll remind you all that Felicia Sonmez is a reporter over there. She screenshotted a tweet that her colleague Dave Weigel had retweeted, not tweeted, retweeted, which said, every girl is bi, you just have to figure out if it's polar or sexual. Okay, whatever. She says it's fantastic to work at a news outlet where this is allowed. She publicly starts flaming him on Twitter and calling for him to be held accountable. She starts attacking others who say that she's acting unprofessionally. This leads to a letter sent out by the Washington Post executive editor that we just showed you, by Sally Busby. She sent a stern memo to the staff saying, newsroom values are against racist or sexist behavior, and we do not tolerate colleagues attacking colleagues either face-to-face or online.
Seems like you do.
Yeah, but you do, because you suspended one guy who retweeted a stupid joke. You didn't suspend the lunatic who's been flaming her colleagues and causing the meltdown of her entire paper and staff on Twitter. And by the way, after the release of that memo, Krystal, she has continued to publicly attack her colleagues on staff. And the behavior of her colleagues, who clearly also think that she is a lunatic but can't say so, is so cowardly. Let's put this up there. Glenn pointed it out. It's so weird and creepy. All of them, these people who work at the Washington Post, started tweeting some version of, I know the Washington Post is a remarkably collaborative newsroom filled with journalists who may stumble at times, myself included, but are always working together. I am proud to work here. And I'm talking about dozens of people at work at the Post started tweeting this, and the reason that they were doing so was to try and subtweet or push back against Felicia, but they didn't have the courage, Krystal, to just say, no, what you're doing here is ridiculous, and you are not behaving in a way that I like. But because they're so captured by like the therapeutic woke industrial complex in the workplace, they just don't have that.
She's also
in themselves.
Unhinged.
Yeah,
and
right.
Will go completely
She would go
nuclear.
right after you.
There was one, we may have this, but
Yeah.
Go ahead and put this next piece up on the screen.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Her own colleagues begging her to stop. So this woman, Lisa Rain, just replies to her and says, please stop.
Right.
So, I mean, this is not over the top, right? This is just like, please stop. And of course, she immediately goes nuclear on this lady and, to them. So they're also fearful because they're basically dealing with a terrorist here who is totally unafraid of just bombing anyone and everything in sight the moment they displease her. And it's completely insane.
Crazy. It's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And it's way too, I mean, you see this shit on the left all the time where you can have, it just takes a few people who are willing to go completely nuts over this stuff. And because there's too much fear of calling them out and saying, you're being ridiculous and you're just being an asshole. Like, put political values aside, you're just being a total dick right now. People are too afraid to do that. And so these people gain the upper hand and they end up controlling the organization.
They do control it. Look at this. You guys remember Breonna Muir, the person who was mistakenly referred to months ago as Breonna Taylor. And she complained about how it makes it very hard for her to do her job when somebody misspelled her name 3 months ago. She says, does our social media company policy not apply to Lisa Rain for telling Felicia Sonmez to stop on Twitter? In all honesty, her comment doesn't really sound collegial to me. She's blasting this out to the entire newsroom.
Her comment was about as collegial as it gets in this circumstance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
She even said, please.
Please stop. And then there's another one. This one is my personal favorite. This guy who works over there, he's 22 years old. Let's put this up there on the screen. Holden Foreman, he's a software engineer, works at the Washington Post. He says that he scrolled through more than 4,800 likes and he identified 4 Washington Post reporters who were in agreement with the sentiments of the woman who said, please stop. And then he identified that they were all white men. So he says, well, why is it exactly that these white men are the ones who are liking this tweet? Do they agree with the policy of harassment? And look, just to give you guys an idea of who these people are, and I'm not picking on this dude, I'm just giving you the facts. He's 22, he just graduated from Stanford, he works at the Washington Post, pronouns in bio, of course. This is an op-ed that he wrote back in 2021. while he was working there, so not that long ago, where he said that the Stanford dining hall system did not work with his disordered eating. I have a lot of sympathy for people who struggle with disordered eating, but the crux of his complaint, Krystal, was that he has an undiagnosed disorder where he feels uncomfortable eating the amount of food that he should have on his plate while he's at a buffet, and thus he wants the university to actually determine and place the amount of food that he needs on his plate without him having to make the choice of putting the amount of food that he needs on his plate. And it's also not diagnosed. And that's what he wants the university to effectively ration food at the buffet at Stanford. So I'm just giving you people a mindset into who these people are that are just being allowed to flagrantly violate their company's policies. Now, look, you can believe whatever you want. If you want to hold that position, I think that's freaking crazy, but whatever. The point is that he's publicly blasting his colleagues and effectively calling them both racist and sexist, some of the worst things that you can call somebody in the PMC workplace, and making it completely untenable to work there in like a civil way.
Right.
And none of these people have been fired. Brianna still has her job. This guy Holden still has his job. And look, I don't think people should lose their job over trivial reasons. I actually agree that when Felicia Sonmez was suspended for tweeting about how Kobe Bryant was a rapist, even though I obviously don't think that that was the time to do it, I think that was messed up. Yeah. I think people should be able to mostly tweet what they want whenever it comes to their opinions.
Oh, and who supported
reason.
Her is Dave Weigel in that, by the way.
I know he did. Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Here's the thing, guys. This is so bad for the entire culture of workplace. If you care about workers' rights, as I do, like the fact that you have this person out here being insane and smearing people publicly with a large and powerful platform, and this goes completely unchecked, that's terrible. And the bottom line is, as you were saying, Saagar, the reason this is allowed to persist is because people are so afraid of getting on the wrong side of a woke cultural issue.
Yes, that's right.
They live in terror of that.
Yeah.
And so you allow the most unhinged person to control the atmosphere of your workplace. I mean, the HR department at Washington Post just did the bidding of Felicia Sonmez, the most unhinged person You go to her Twitter timeline.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
nuts.
Relentless.
Oh, she calls me scum, by the way, just so people know.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't even understand how this lady has time to post all that she posts. I'm serious. Like, touch grass, for real. So you allow that person to control what you're doing over at Washington Post HR. That is cowardice. It's just cowardice because they don't want to be the one who's getting flamed by her and called sexist or whatever she's going to ultimately throw at you. So that's ultimately what it comes down to is it got to be people have got to stop being so terrified of getting on the wrong side of being called not woke enough or whatever, because whether it's at a media organization, whether it's at a company, whether it's a political project, more often than not, and we have seen so many examples of this on the left. That whole story Ryan Grimm did of the what was the Montgomery County City Councilor or something like that. I mean, it just takes one person who is willing to blow the whole project up because of their own feelings or their own posturing, their own virtue signaling, their own branding effort, and everybody around them being too cowardly to call them out to destroy everything good. I do think that this is just like a CIA, this whole cult is a CIA psyop to destroy the left. I really am convinced at this point.
I went ahead, I put this out there. I've decided I'm actually pro Felicia at this point, because what I realize is that she's just taking all of the cowardice language in the workplace to its logical conclusion. She's like, you said, believe all women, support all women at any cost, and we stand up to sexism, all this. She's just playing it out and showing you that when you don't have clear hierarchy and real decisions, which aren't based in trying to make people feel good all the time, this is the stuff that proliferates. I think it's nuts. Just look, we have policies. You violated the policy. You're fired. It's simple. And look, as long as it's not used in a punitive way where she's speaking out against something what I would consider, and I think most people would consider real, then it's fine. She's suing her own bosses and lost, by the way, asking for $2 million. You think that doesn't play some part in this? I think it's crazy that also all the people at the Post who are too afraid, like the fact that they thought it was some win that their editor had to be like, we are reiterating the policy. You don't need to reiterate. The policy is the policy.
Actually implement the policy.
Implement the policy.
Yeah.
She's still employed, by the way. And Weigel, for retweeting that stupid joke,
which he immediately deleted and apologized for.
The guy's going without a paycheck for a month. Ask yourself, could you go a whole month without pay? How many people in this country? I'm not saying it's a sob story. Yeah, he's like probably upper middle class journalist. I don't think anybody should have to go through that for something like this. And he's personally gone after us. That's what we're trying to tell you. We don't care. Felicia retweeted a tweet calling me absolute scum. You know what? Unlike her, I'm not going to be, you've incited violence against it. I don't care. I have a show here. I can talk to you all about it. That's my point.
How could you, Felicia?
Enough. I don't want to point all this stuff. It's fine. It's all in the game. You know, it's like the Wire quote, but it's just one of those things where
the cowardice.
The cowardice, and these people are very powerful.
Because you're going to have unhinged people. Any organization,
it happens.
You have a large organization, you're going to have someone who's unhinged.
That's right.
It's
okay. It's okay.
Okay, are you going to let that person run your organization? Because that's what's happening right now. I mean, she literally is like dictating the decisions of Washington Post HR as of today. And the best they can do is like, we're going to reiterate in a memo. No, if you have a policy, enforce your policy and make it safe for the rest of your workforce to actually like exist and not live in fear of their own shadow and being like, you know, shamed and bullied online constantly.
Absolutely right.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.